And against the backdrop of the poor outing of female candidates at the last general elections, the national chairman of the Nigerian for Democracy, Dr. Archibong, says Nigeria must make deliberate efforts to empower and develop her female population. Well, Asuquo lamented that despite campaigns for women to participate actively in the last elections, fewer women won elections in prominent positions. Well, Asuquo says the party has started a series of activities to help empower women in Nigeria.
It was incumbent upon all of us to actually see that women become more engaged in the process. It burdened me to see that women become more engaged in the process as well. We decided to have an NFD Next Leaders 500 Women March. Now, what does that mean? Very simple. We want to have a situation whereby we can get the women in our society and put them on the path to leadership. We have to open three things. We have to open the doors, we have to give women a voice, and we have to put them in leadership positions. Opening the doors means we have to open the doors to what? The private sector. We have to get women into the pipeline to leadership in the private sector.
Well, we are now being joined in the studio by the National Chairman of Nigeria for Democracy, Dr. Archibong. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's just a pleasure. I'm so glad. Thank you.
Well, the last time we had you here, you were an aspirant. You wanted to be president of Nigeria.
Actually, I was a candidate. I had moved away from being an aspirant to being nominated in my party, Nigeria for Democracy, and to being a candidate. And of course, it's no longer news the way the elections.
Well, we'll have that conversation. But let's talk about the fact that despite the fact that we have 30% affirmation, less than 6% of women hold prominent positions. Why is this so, and how can we bridge this gap?
Well, it's heartbreaking, especially when I go for meetings and 99% of the persons in the room are gentlemen. Now, when you have the backdrop of 99% of people in the room being gentlemen, it means that there is no diversity of opinion, and it means that the conversation only revolves around certain topics that affect men. Now, if you step back and look at the year 2000, we had the Millennium Development Goals. And within those goals were 8 laid down goals that must be achieved by the signatories. There were 191 countries that were co-signatories to that under the auspices of the United Nations. Nigeria was one of them. Some of the goals included eradication of extreme poverty and hunger. The next one was promotion of the universal primary education, and also achieving a level playing field, more or less like promotion for gender equality and empowerment of women. You move a little bit forward, you'll see there's the dovetailing of infant mortality, and then there's also maternal health care. And these are issues that really affect women. You are not going to separate women from the issues of extreme poverty and hunger. We are fed by women. We are nurtured by women. You're not going to separate women from the issues of education, universal primary education. Well, it's generally called mother's tongue, and you learn when you are still right on the knees of your mother.
The needs of the women, so many, but yet we're not having a lot of women in positions of power to make this decision.
Yes.
Some countries, even in Africa here, we've seen a higher number of women participating. Look at Rwanda, look at Ethiopia. Here in Nigeria, do you think we require legislation of some sort to get more political parties to be more involved in giving more women positions and even opportunities to vie for office?
The country, Nigeria, has done its best so far. Let me remind everyone that we do actually have a ministry for women affairs, and this ministry is doing its very best. But it can't take a tree to make a forest. So we all have to play our part. That is the quintessential reason that Nigeria for Democracy and myself most significantly decided on the tripartite course of action. One is to actually open the doors for women help open the doors for women in the private sector, in the public sector, and also in the political process. That's one. Then the second one was to ensure that we give women a voice on all matters that affect the Federation of Nigeria, and most significantly on issues that affect women. That's the second part of the tripartite. Now, the last leg is to put women in the pipeline to leadership positions. The mere fact that a woman is a director in a ministry or a minister in a ministry does not mean that we have female or women that will follow in that pipeline in terms of succession.
Let me just quickly cut in here because you don't seem to be answering the question Amaka raised.
Okay.
In some of the countries that she mentioned, where you have, in Rwanda, for example, in the parliament is a 50-50 representation. As a lawyer, that will require a constitutional amendment, a legal instrument coming from the National Assembly to say that 50% of,
or even at the political party levels.
From the political party levels in the civil service or public service, you're going to have 50% representation.
I think
would that fast track?
Of course,
this?
definitely. Look, we have women being about 50% of the population of Nigeria, so nobody will be cheated.
The UN figure says Nigerian men are more now. So you can imagine what the competition is going to be like.
The idea is, let's give women a voice. We can do that by encouraging women. Remember, the second part of it is the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women. If it will take legislation to make sure that we have equal representation of women in the Senate, in the Federal House of Assembly, then we need to move that forward in terms of that legislation. But in the meantime, we can't just sit down and fold our hands and say somebody's going to make sure that that legislation comes to be. We have to do our own part, and that is where I stepped in with the 500 Women March.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick.
Precisely. This is Nigeria for Democracy, Next Leaders Summit. We have already had a Next Leaders Summit series in Abuja here, but we decided to focus on a summit that will specifically highlight the issues that affect women and help to bring women into the pipeline.
So what
for
are some
leadership.
of these issues you've noticed? Because the population of the females in Nigeria, for instance, is a lot, but yet we're getting less and less women in positions of authority. Why are women not voting for women since we have the population to make that change?
Well, let's begin to talk about the financial aspect for women. When you put your nomination forms at 2 million for an office, how many people can actually afford that? So maybe we need to begin to think about how to reduce the amount of the nomination forms or give it to women for free. My party, Nigeria for Democracy, gave nomination forms to everyone in the Federation of Nigeria for free. That is number one. Number two, let's move away from midnight political meetings. There is nothing you have to say at 11, 12, or 1 a.m. that you cannot say at 1, 2, or 3 p.m. There is no one that is going to be comfortable on the roads at this time to go for a political meeting. Let's move it to the daytime. Number three is, let's consciously bring a woman into the pipeline of leadership. Let's encourage women to come out and know that they can be voted for, and they don't just have to organize the voting for men. You have in political parties, almost all of them, the women's leader. And she is the least known of the persons, whereas she should be the best known of the persons to galvanize the women who are actually the ones that organize a lot of these things and prop up the men, and the men take the glory. So we have to begin to think of how can we assist women to move into positions of leadership. And that's very simple. Open the door. Let them come into the political process, 1. 2, give them a voice. And then 3, just make sure that in the pipeline of leadership.
Well, Dr. Archibong, we can talk all day, but we'd have to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. And well done for all that you're doing for the women, even though you are a man.
Well,
we really appreciate
it's called
it.
a he for she.
Well, you're watching Newsnight Nigeria here on Arise News from the nation's capital, Abuja. We're heading for a short break now, but just stay with us because there's plenty more still ahead.